everyone. Welcome to the Rich Prater Podcast, where we talk about stand-up comedy, film, entertainment, and pretty much anything out there under the sun. In this episode, I have my longtime friend and colleague, funny man Mike Williams. Mr. Mike Williams was the person that taught me how to market inside the church to church pastors, and how to get gigs inside the church, and also how to produce products for the church market. So, which was something I was completely green to when I first got into the business of doing stand-up in churches and being a Christian comedian. Mike was really instrumental in me being able to make a living for myself as I traveled around doing stand-up comedy and providing for my family. And so in this episode, we cover a number of things on how he got started in the business, some of the key things you can do to market yourself in this industry, as well as some fun things that he has gone through, and some of the amazing work he's doing in the Dominican Republic and his adoption of some Dominican babies as well. We go over that as well. So anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy this podcast with Mike Williams. Mike Williams, welcome to the podcast. How are you, man?
Okay. Great.
Really?
Was that it? Was that the intro? Did I miss it?
Yeah, that was the intro. You're supposed to.
Oh, hey, it's good to be here. Hang on, let me turn off live PD. Okay. Are we really on?
Yeah, I'm recording.
Oh, wow, there's people there. Hello, everybody. Out in podcast land, I guess that's the new technical term for this. Now that Radio Land is gone by the wayside. Do people even have those anymore, radios? Do they use them?
I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. I don't have one.
Okay, all right. Sometimes people say I couldn't tell you, and I wonder if it's like a secret or something. They're just trying to keep it. But anyway, what's happening, buddy? I'm here in Florida. It's rainy. It's a rainy, beautiful rainy day here in Florida. We need the water because we just don't have enough sinkholes, and so it's helpful. What's happening there in Colorado?
In Colorado, it's actually storming today as well. So,
oh wow,
we've been
We're having
a great summer.
Similar experiences in a different location.
Yes, there's more white people here in Colorado
than in Charlottesville.
Right. Wow.
Oh, I guess we probably shouldn't bring that up today. There we go. There we go. Ticking people off right up front.
Oh, that was. Yeah, I can't even turn on Facebook anymore. Just everyone's calling each other names and racists and Nazis, right. And yeah,
and that's just the preachers.
yeah, exactly.
So I'll tell you. No, well, anyway, it might. Hey, we're talking about two people in the same place. I started years ago, 25 years ago, the opening to my very first. Now this is going to date me, okay? My very first cassette tape. Don't laugh, Rich. Don't laugh. You don't even remember those. My very first cassette tape started off with, while driving across Mexico, an American tourist runs out of gas. At the same time, his twin brother experiences gas while eating Mexican food. That was my big intro. I just thought it kind of related because you're having a storm and we're having a storm. Well, maybe you can edit this out.
Wait, and you still have that memorized, that joke?
I have every joke I've ever done memorized.
Wait, so how did you get into comedy? Like, what was the... Because we chatted a little bit about this, but you said you did some other things first, and then it kind of transitioned over?
Yeah, lots of great comedic jobs. I was a bag boy. That was part of it. I wasn't able to keep that job for a long time, if you consider 2 weeks a long time. But I didn't. But yeah, I ran a teen center for street kids and talked to them. And a guy heard me and connected me with some other people, and I started writing comedy for other people long before I started doing it. And then I get a call one day out of the blue from a fellow by the name of David Burton. David Burton at the time was head of a big religious denominational organization in Florida. I won't mention the name of them. Okay. But they were having a big youth rally, in Daytona Beach, Florida, and they said, "Hey, we hear that you're this writer guy for the Stars," and I'm like, oh, "Is it a paying gig? I sure am." So, so they brought me out there. They said, "You're going to be the headliner, and you're going to speak to 7,000 kids, and your opening act is going to be a little band called Casting Crowns, and they're trying to make it on the scene right now, and the middle act before you is going to be a young lady by the name of Jessica Simpson. She's trying to make it in Christian music right now, and those are old names, and one of them's still around in Christian music." And then it's going to be you. And so they didn't realize, but like my third show was for 7,000 kids, so.
Yeah, how did it go?
Well, of course, I think it went well. Have you ever known a comedian that didn't think that show they just did was amazing? It's just the audience didn't get it, but they were amazing.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, it went well. It went well. It was crazy stuff back then that I was doing. It wasn't really a verbal comedy as much as it was just props and gags and stuff. But it was fun. Do you remember your first comedy gig?
I do.
How did it go?
It was it was a talent night at my church.
Okay.
And I stole
and
everyone's material. I stole Jeff Foxworthy's material. I stole Sinbad's material. So I think I still have it on a VHS tape where I was talking about my big afro.
Oh, did you have a big afro at the
No,
time?
not at all. No, I had that, mid-90s haircut or whatever that was. And then, but that's what made the joke funny was because everyone knew I was talking about an afro that I didn't
about
have.
Sinbad.
Yeah.
When you're going to steal material, it's usually best to steal material that actually works for you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I actually juggled knives on that the first time I ever did comedy.
Now, what other than the danger factor? What is the humor? Where was the punchline for the? By the way, I'm going to be juggling knives.
Oh, I put on I had a blindfold and I was gonna do it blindfolded, so I put it over my eyes, and I said I'm gonna juggle knives, and I put it over my eyes, and then I slipped up and made it into a bandana, and I was like, I'm gonna juggle knives with a bandana on, whatever, and that was like the laugh that I got. And then I juggled knives, and then it was like a little applause stop, whatever, and that was it. That was my big ending.
So it was a combination of the amazing Jonathan and Jeff Foxworthy and Sinbad.
Sinbad, yes.
So it's like you might have a large afro if.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's right. And then you pull out a bloody knife, right?
Yeah, well, he used to do a lot of stuff with knives.
I love the amazing Jonathan.
He's great.
I met him once in California, and he was just like the nicest guy.
Was he amazing? Was he truly amazing?
No, he was at Universal Studios when I used to live out in L.A., and he was just hanging out doing a TV show, and then he took time to talk to some of the people. We got his autograph and took pictures with a Kodak camera. Oh, good times.
My dad has a VHS tape of the amazing Jonathan right next to his Gallagher collection. And so good stuff. Great memories, though. Great memories.
So how did you go from? So you went from that doing a couple of gigs, and then you did your 7,000 seat gig, and then when did you decide to go full time?
Somewhere about halfway through the 7,000 seat gig.
Okay.
You're going, hey, I could get used to that. And then afterwards, people came up and said, hey, can you come to my church? And, we'll pay you. And it's like all of a sudden the Lord spoke to me and told me that I was going to be called into comedy. And so, that's where it all started, right in there. I'm skipping some of the details, obviously, because I want to get back to live PD. But,
So did you start just, because obviously I would imagine people started asking you to come out and do their churches, but when you first started out, like how much did you market yourself? Were you calling churches or making cold calls, or was it more just relationship?
I've always been a marketing maniac. I don't mean that I marketed correctly, okay?
Yeah.
But I was always trying stuff. In fact, Justin used to laugh at me, Justin Fennell. used to laugh at me about my marketing techniques because he had all this really nice material. He had different promo pieces. He had a trifold brochure. He had cardstock with glossy, and I had stuff that I mimeographed down at the church basement.
Right.
But what I would do is I would get on the phone and I would just call people and say, hey, would you like to laugh, and drop some of the places that I'd been. And then it was the hardest thing was to get guys to actually take my call. Secretaries are trained to weed out guys who are calling wanting something. And so we learned that there were some different ways around that. Like if I had one guy that I would really want to talk to, and they, weren't able to talk to, or I couldn't get through to them, I would send them. I would go to like Kmart. Remember, it was back when Kmart. I don't even know if Kmart exists anymore, but Kmart would sell these little plastic phones you plug in the wall. For like $2.98, you could buy a Uniden plug-in plastic phone. And so I would go down there, buy one of those, put it in a little box, and send it to the guy I wanted to talk to, with a note that says, I've been trying to get a hold of you. I believe your phone must be broke. Here's a new phone.
That's right.
But you know what? It worked.
Yeah.
It worked. And then I ended up doing a walk-on spot in Atlanta, Georgia at a youth specialties conference. And that radically changed my life. After from those 2 dates, I ended up with like 90 dates for the year.
Wow.
Yeah, and so when you're starting off like that, all of a sudden, you got no place to go but down. So I was prepped for it. No, it did real well, and I wore out 3 Nissan trucks, going back and forth around the country, and those were the early days. I remember doing a tour sponsored by Chick-fil-A, and 15 days I ate nothing but Chick-fil-A nuggets, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, because it was sponsored by Chick-fil-A. So they would bring all the food, and so to this day, I can't hardly eat Chick-fil-A. I'm just now getting back where I can eat Chick-fil-A again.
Wow.
So those were good times, though. Good times. Got to do a tour with a short tour, mind you, but with Mercy Me back in the day, and back when they were, almost as, give me mercy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, these were great guys, and they were just learning. I mean, they were young. They just happened to be from my same town, and the group got together and wanted to do an outreach thing and put us out going to colleges all over Florida.
Wow.
And the setup was horrible, Rich. You couldn't get a worse setup. We would go into the lunchroom. Here's the college lunchroom. People are scattered out there having conversations. And I would use the microphone. Now, you know how microphones are at lunchrooms.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
This is not a good sound system. This is where you go, man, I wish I had a CB radio. I think it would be clearer. But so sometimes, I remember one time we were up in Panama City, college up there, and the only microphone was one where you squeezed it, just like, one of these cop microphones,
Yeah.
And it had a coiled cord on it right there. So I'm literally standing behind the cashier telling jokes to the kids, to the college students in the room, trying to convince them to come back that night to hear me and this new band called Mercy Me. And and I point to the band, who would always be standing off there to the side going, I'm glad you're doing this, because I don't think the whole band could play through that microphone.
Right. Oh, wow.
Oh, but great memories,
So how do you think, and we discussed this a little bit yesterday, but how do you think the comedy market in the church has changed or transformed over the last 10 or 15 years?
Oh, yeah. Well, market-wise, with Sunday nights going away. I mean, I'm older than you, obviously, Rich, but I mean, I grew up in a time where, people went to church for basically 4 hours on Sunday. You'd have an hour of Sunday school, you'd have an hour of church, and you'd come back in the evening for an hour of Sunday night Sunday school called Training Union or something like that. And then you'd have an hour of church. So there were all of these slots for speakers and comedy guys or musicians or the Blackwood Brothers Quartet from Nashville, Tennessee, to come in and do extra things. Well, now, pastors got 1 hour a week. Half of that's going to be taken up by somebody who better be as good as Hillsong or we're going to another church. And, and he's got to get it all in that 20 minutes or so that he's got. So he's not as likely to have outsiders unless he's going on vacation and doesn't want the youth pastor to speak, And so there's that part of it. The other part of it is that people's opinion of what's offensive has changed. And let's walk very carefully as we talk about this, okay? Because I do want to keep what left of a career I have.
Okay.
It used to be, and you may remember this, and I'll tell you when it happened. It happened 9 years ago, okay? 9 years ago. And it happened just before the election, the 3 elections back, okay? Before that, when a comedian was up there, he was in comic mode. We all knew he was in comic mode, and so he was allowed to be a comic. Anything is fair game as long as he's in comedy mode. He can make fun of anything, talk about any issue as long as he's Mr. Comedian. Now, off stage he can't, but on stage he can't. On stage he could. Excuse me, I got to go back up there because I was thinking of something you said a minute ago. You talked about your first gig, getting up and doing Sinbad.
Yeah.
Okay, getting up there and doing this about my big afro. Okay, you do that today, and all of a sudden you're being offensive or you're being a racist because you're talking about a big afro.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of white guys who have big afros. Well, it doesn't make any difference. It could be racist. Somebody could deem it as racism. So that's off base, okay? And so you can't do that. You do this, you do the amazing bit you do about preaching in black churches and how it's different than a white church. And it's hilarious. And let me say this from the bottom of my heart, from a man who has also adopted a child of color. So don't call me a racist, okay? Anybody who calls me a racist better say I've adopted 2 children of color to up one on me, okay?
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying?
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Here's the thing. Your bit is hilarious. Your bit is absolutely true. Your bit actually makes black churches seem a lot more fun to go to than white churches. But there will be people who will go, oh, that's racism. Why? Purely because a white guy like you made the statement.
That's right. And it wasn't even, and when I created that bit, I wasn't making the joke. I actually got hired by a black church, and they brought
it's a true story.
Yeah, I literally, it's not even a joke. It's like all I'm doing was recreating the experience that I had at that church years ago. It was a church in South Carolina. The pastor was just this fun guy. He picked me up from the airport. I was the only white guy at the church. We did in the morning we went to church. It was 3-4 hours long. It was ridiculous. And then we went to lunch and we came back and we had like an afternoon session, and then we went and had dinner, and then at night they brought me back in to do stand up. And it's like, and my stand up that night was just me telling my experience. And so, and I just, kind of honed it down into a little bit. But yeah, it's not even, it's just it's an observation that I had, but it seems like we're not allowed to have observations anymore.
Exactly. Observations are now considered taboo and especially if they're true.
Right.
Especially if you're speaking the truth, which has always been what comedy's been able to do. Comedy has always been able to speak the truth in a funny way.
Right.
So comedians have always defined, so much of the way we look at things. But now it's to the place where you get up there and you go, okay, what can I talk about? We're going to have to get back to just, slapstick comedy. I hit you in the head with a hammer and you try to hit me before you drop.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the YouTube? What do we search if we want to search that piece that we're talking about for you?
For the Black Church?
Yeah. What is that?
Oh, you could just put in Black Church comedian or something like that, or Christian comedian Black
and your
Church.
name, Rich Prater, right? So people listening can go see if we're off on this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you go to Rich Prater, just Christian comedian Rich Prater or whatever. It's one of the, or if you just search Christian comedian Black Church, that'll come up as well.
I just did this video called "Belts for Boys with Baggy Bottoms."
Yes.
You know it well, okay, and it's a video about what's happening all across the country where today's young people. I said young people. I didn't say young black people, young Mexican people, young Chinese people, okay, or any. I don't want to leave anybody out either. I don't want anybody offended because I left them out, okay. So every young people around the world are wearing their pants down low, so you see their underwear. Okay, it's a video. I call it a charity parody. Okay, where we make fun. We do this bit about we want people to donate belts for boys with baggy bottoms. But already I've gotten lots of people who said, "Oh man, this is absolutely hilarious." But then you get those who, "I think this is offensive to the urban culture." Well. And I appreciate that they at least said urban culture because that they weren't saying, one particular group. Okay. Right. But since when is just being truthful offensive? Okay. This is why, really at the present rate of speed, we're going to be getting rid of the Bible itself in a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
Because the Bible speaks to issues. It speaks to issues. It calls people to stop doing things that they are doing and to start doing things that they are not. And if truth is offensive, then we need to get rid of every high school and every middle school and every grade school because you're standing up to children saying to them, you need to learn this, and they're going, no, we don't. So that makes education offensive. So let's get rid of education. In fact, let's get rid of the speed limit laws out there too, because I quite honestly find them really offensive. Okay? Because offensivity now is I don't agree with you, so you are offensive, or you're racist, or stereotypical, or any other names that they can throw at me, but I can't dare say something back. Boy, we sound like bitter old men, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. Like those two guys in the Muppet Show on the balcony. Oh, those are my favorite guys now.
In my day.
Oh.
Kids didn't even have pants.
Yeah.
We covered our private areas with our hands and we liked it.
So who were your influences when you were starting out doing comedy?
I won't tell you what I immediately thought of.
George Carlin? Just fine.
No, I was going to be. No, I'm not even going to tell you. No, actually, didn't have a lot of influences when I first started. I mean, I had listened to guys like Mike Warnke, although my style was nothing like Mike Warnke. I had listened to guys like Ken Davis before, who I greatly admire and appreciate and has been a mentor to me, but he wasn't really my style, but I listened to them. I was just kind of doing my own thing. I was doing props. It was a lot like Carrot Top.
Yeah.
Although I didn't know him when I started. I ended up getting to know him, and you know some of the story there. I ended up getting to, write a few pieces for him, and it was just kind of my own thing, and it's so completely different now. Here it is, 25 years later, and I maybe do one thing that's in the genre of what I would have done back then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, weird how things change.
So now, but I remember we had a conversation, and you were talking about, and I've experienced this as well. Is the churches just aren't booking comedians that much anymore. It seems you have to do what either Shonda is doing or Tim Hawkins or some of these bigger guys that are, booking their own, they're, just doing a door deal or hosting their own shows and doing ticketed events, which you can do if you have the name.
It's
but
not just comedy, though, Rich. It's not comedy. I mean, you're exactly right. But what's happening now, even the major artists, because churches are, like I say, we go back to that, they don't have as many services. Churches don't want the overhead. They don't, who wants the cost of going, I'm going to bring in X group and the church is going to have to put out $50,000. Okay? I mean, you and I know this. Maybe this is for some of our listeners. Maybe this is you don't know. Okay? But some of the major groups, some of your Grammy-winning artists out there, when they come to your church, they're coming with a contracted fee of many times, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but many times well over $50,000 to do one night of show.
Right, that's right.
Okay, so the churches are going, hey, can we justify taking tithe money to do that? They used to do it all the time, but the times were better then. Okay, they used a lot of your tithe money went to pay $50,000 nights for artists. Okay, that they tried to recuperate with tickets or tried to recuperate with offerings. Okay, but now the churches are going, hey, people aren't giving as much. People are giving to more diversified things. People don't want to. Well, honestly, people found out that we were using the money to buy big concerts and they're not giving as much to the church anymore. They'd rather give directly to a mission rather than see their money go to put in new carpet where the new carpet was put in last year because we decided to change the hue. Okay? And they go, that's not what we want to tithe to. And I understand that. And so churches are saying, we have less money, so we're not going to bring in those $50,000 guests. So what the guests now have had to turn around and come to the church and say, hey, we can bring a crowd to your church, pastor. We can get people in your door. You can introduce them to your church. You can have, 4 minutes in the middle, tell them how great your church is. You can get them to come to your church. Your church is the best, got the best music, best speaker, best everything here. And what we'll do is we'll do a ticket price. We'll deduct the expenses that it costs for us to produce the concert, and then we'll give you back 50% of every dollar that comes into your church. So now it becomes a profit maker for the church. In fact, even the large missions are doing things like this. You know what I mean? I don't want to be negative because it's their way of staying afloat, and I understand this. But I have been to churches that have said, you cannot, Mike, we know that you have a mission project in the Dominican Republic. You cannot say anything about that organization. Well, why is that? Because we receive money from this, let's just say X organization, that anybody who comes to our church, the only people who can represent an organization is our organization being represented. Okay, so the mission organizations are actually paying large churches and pastors to not allow any other mission organization, any other child support organization other than that one there.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. I've been a part of that. Where you go to like a certain church, and then you want to say something about your ministry or whatever, and you're just not allowed to because they're under contract.
Right.
With another.
Yeah, under contract. Isn't that weird that we've contracted? I think we've contracted out Christianity. I think that in some places Christianity and religion is so much a business. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't do good. I'm not saying it doesn't lift up people. I'm not saying that that God isn't praised in it. I can always go back to the point where Jesus is there. The disciples come back to him after a day out on their own, and they say there were these people out there. They were doing these things, talking about you, but they weren't part of our team. Jesus said, let them alone. Okay, if they're not against us, they're for us. But I'm just saying it is what it is.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, just to piggyback off that, I have noticed that all of my events that I do, they have a purpose now. It's either
Yes.
lots of fundraisers or volunteer appreciation banquets. I mean, that's probably the bulk of the events that I do.
Exactly.
And, yeah, no more comedy outreaches or Sunday morning funnies or things like that. Which is fine because I know the culture is changing. But yeah, I totally see that. So I wanted to jump into. You mentioned, you adopted two kids or one kid of color. Is it one?
Yes.
So now and he's from the Dominican.
Yes.
And then, so two things. You adopted a child from the Dominican, and then also, how did you get connected with the Dominican Republic? Because now you have a mission over there. So, yeah. So first question, how did you get, connected with adopting a child from over there? And then the second part of that question is now you have this mission over there that you basically support yourself by doing your comedy, and then you go over there, like part of the year to the Dominican to serve the people over there. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Let me just correct one statement.
Uh-oh.
I am not the full only supporter of the mission. Okay. I just want to make sure that we don't have any misunderstanding that I'm somehow this great guru that makes everything happen there.
Okay, my fault.
Because you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, about everything you're saying, but it's not just me. Okay.
Yeah.
There are a lot of wonderful folks around the country who also, even many comedians, who help support it, and so I'm very grateful for that. And
are you in the bathroom?
Yeah. For me, it was went down on a mission trip. Saw that there was this tremendous need, and sometimes you see a need, and you have a choice of what you're going to do about it. There's here you see the Bible says the steps of God's people are ordered by the Lord. Okay, so if our steps are ordered by God, then what God puts us in front of, there's a reason for it. And we need to stop praying in our old, unfit way. It doesn't work. We need to stop praying, God, hey, there's a need in Haiti, do something about it. And we need to start praying, God, you exposed me to this need. What for? What do you want me to do about it? So my wife and I went down. We saw this need. It burdened our hearts. Began to formulate a plan. And then about 8 years ago, we put our house on the market and moved down. Now the ministry has become so large that we have 12 full-time staff members down there in 15 buildings, and
wow,
it's huge. And it's called, by the way, if somebody wants to look it up, it's called Cups, C-U-P-S, of Cold Water.
Cupsofcoldwater.com. Yeah, and
Cupsofcoldwater.com.
And I'll put that in the show notes too.
Yeah, super.
As well.
Pardon the noise. I'm in the car with our dog right now, who is going to the doctor here.
Uh-oh.
So yeah. So if you hear some barking, that's not me.
Okay.
Although that would be cool. I could just tell people, man, he does an amazing dog sound. Yeah.
but that would be offensive to cat owners, I would imagine.
Well, cat owners and dog owners too, I'm sure, because yeah, let's get back to fun comedy stuff.
What is a good dog sound? That's
Pretty much, I've learned that around the country, around the world, even in the third world, apparently dogs were not at the Tower of Babel
That's right.
because dogs all speak the same language. You know, like I mean, even here you've got your German Shepherd, and you got your Siberian Husky, and you got your I don't know where poodles come from, Hades maybe, and you get them all together, and they all seem to be able to communicate fine, and they all go woof woof woof. It's pretty much the same. So apparently they never tried to build a big skyscraper to heaven, a big dog house to the sky. So
And what kind of
God
dog do you have?
protected them.
What kind of dog do you have?
We have a Schnauzer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like a Schnauzer right now. It looks like just a small white polar bear. Yes,
Caucasian.
which
polar
I believe
bear.
any small white bear would probably be a polar bear.
That's
But
right.
just for clarification for people out there who are going, I wonder exactly what kind of bear he meant by that. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So that's it. You used to have a dog. You used to have some Rotties, if I remember right.
Yeah, I had a Rottweiler and a German Shepherd.
I mean, one of each, or were they mixed?
One of each.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, they were nice, and they lived to about 10 or 11 years old, and then they both went down the same day. So it was sad.
Oh, really? Wow. What happened?
Oh, I hit him with a car. No, I'm just kidding. No,
oh.
no, actually, no. I think
you can't leave him in the trunk for as long as you think you can. It's
Serious.
amazing how that is. Oh, you better edit that one out
Yeah.
too.
No, actually, no. The German Shepherd had like really severe hip problems. That's what they're known for, is joints and hip things. And but then he had developed a tumor in
Maybe
his
that
heart.
explains my aunt's facial hair.
That's right.
She must be a German Shepherd. She's got the hip problems.
And she barks, right? Oh, I can't say
And
that. I don't
the
know
facial
her.
hair, right.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
okay. Yeah, so hip problems with one.
Oh yeah, hip
And
problems, and then he had developed a tumor in his heart, and then the tumor ended up rupturing. So anyway, it just ruptured and slowed him down, and then over the course of like a day, he kind of he couldn't move anymore. So we went and took him to the vet, and then they had him put down. And then it wasn't like the same day. The next day, the second dog was he had a meningitis. Was that meningitis? Yeah.
Yeah.
Had meningitis, and so the doctor just kept telling us anytime we want to put that dog down, because he was slowly dying from the medication that was keeping him alive, and so he was just
yeah.
it was just we decided to just do it at the same time.
So he gave you a 2-for-1. It was kind of like the Pharaoh. He didn't want to go alone, so he took some of his people with him. And,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, and I took
Well,
my
that's sad, but I got to be honest with you. If I were a dog right now and you showed up at the pound, I'd go, man, don't adopt me.
Yeah.
It seems like it's pretty dangerous to live at your house.
yeah serious.
This is an old story. I think it's a Dennis Swanberg story. And but it could be Ken Davis too. So forgive me, one of you guys who's listened to this who knows it's the other guy, and I apologize. But it's the old man. He's laying in the hospital bed, and he takes his hand of his wife, and he said, "Baby, back in '56 when that car fell on me, you were right there. And in '62 when I got my leg taken off and that mower came across me, you were right there. And baby, in '61 when I was hit by the car." Backing out of the mall, you were right there. He said, "Baby, you're bad luck."
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, not a great joke, but a good one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll ask you one last question, because I know you gotta go here in a second, but I'm sure anyone listening would want to know, because I want to know, what would you have done differently when you started out doing stand up, or would you have done anything differently?
Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, man, how much time do we have for this one? This is a question.
Or the other part of
What
that
would
question.
I've done differently? I would have put less less worry into equipment. As far as, man, I got to have this equipment, and I want to own this equipment and this equipment. I would have spent all my time making sure I had a really good promo and getting on the phone. Nothing beats personal phone calls to connect with people. The other thing is, especially now in this coming era, is I would have found more ways to get more videos online, just for, just to get the word out, because it is the new thing, and you never know what's going to go viral. I mean, look at Tim Hawkins. I mean, we all love Tim, but we would be saying Tim who if it were not for Cletus Take the Reel.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, it's just it is what it is,
Yeah.
And so Cletus Take the Reel, and then Homeschool Family. He followed it up, and it helps that he had great marketing too, but it helped there. But it's all about getting your name out there. Good, bad, or indifferent. Who is it that used to say it doesn't make any difference whether they're saying good or bad about you as long as they're talking about you?
Cosby? I don't know. I don't know.
You racist. You are a racist and a murderist. See? Oh, no, he didn't murder anybody, did he? I'm sorry. A sexist. That's what you are.
There you go.
Yeah. And I'm offended. I'm offended by that. In fact, tell you what, I'm going out today and buying a whole 12-pack of Jell-O pudding. I'm just going to eat it. Just to for that horrible statement you made.
Oh. Well, what's one last question. What's the one thing you think that you did right in your career?
Oh, one thing I did right.
I mean, for me, when I look at you, I just look how hard you worked and the personal relationships that you developed with potential sponsors and bookers, and you always maintain the relationship. I think that was key because I would see you at a show, and then how much you would follow up with the sponsor and make sure you told them how much you enjoyed being there, and then they would have you back either the next year or the year after. So. Oh
yeah, in fact, I still my claim to fame and the reason why people still book me, and I mean, I did 102 speaking events last year, along with being in the Dominican. You know what I mean? Flying out and doing things.
Yeah.
But over 50% of those were people who'd used me the year before. Okay, so like I told them at the Christian Comedy Association, be funny. Be funny. When you get on stage, be funny.
Yeah.
Okay? Be really funny. Know your audience. Be funny for the audience. It's not the audience's job to find you funny. It's your job to be funny for that audience. I was also very fortunate. I don't know that I could have made it if it wasn't for the fact that I have a very, very good wife. I have a wonderful wife. I can't say enough about her because this kind of life, traveling these kind of miles and stuff like this can be absolutely insane.
Yes.
But so I'm very grateful for Teresa Lynn Williams, and so yeah.
Yeah, she's a great lady.
Well, hey, buddy, it's been really great being with you today.
Yeah,
I appreciate you calling, and I hope things are better weathered in Colorado.
Okay, yeah, and you stay safe out in Florida and have fun at the vet.
Hey, and I'll say it one more time, MikeWilliamsComedy.com.
That's right.
MikeWilliamsComedy.com. MikeWilliamsComedy.com. If they want to find out more about me, and love to meet them. Okay.
And then also
Thanks.
Cups of Cold Water.
Yeah, cupsofcoldwater.com is our mission program. Drop them by. All right.
Awesome. All right, Mikey, it was good talking to you, man. Love you, buddy.
Blessings to everybody, and I don't mean this in a racial way, but peace out with the is out right there.
Mike Williams, everyone. Give it up for Mike Williams. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please visit MikeWilliamsComedy.com and check out more of the funny stuff that Mike Williams is doing right now, as well as CupsOfColdWater.com, the amazing ministry that he began a few years ago and that he is currently supporting through his comedy, as well as the other sponsors that we discussed. So if you feel so inclined, feel free to get on his mailing list and keep up with all the news that's going on in the Dominican, as well as, it's always nice to write a check to support someone who is really doing something amazing. Lastly, I want to tell you guys about a new project that I am currently about to release. We're actually in our pre-release launch right now. It's called The Tithe Project, where I follow a family around for 90 days as they tithe for the first time. And so if you go to titheprojectmovie.com, you can see the trailer, a couple of video clips. I'll have these in the show notes as well. But it was truly an amazing experience to follow that family around as they began to tithe for the first time, and for them to really put their faith up to the challenge. And it was a struggle at times, but they kept going through it, and God proved faithful throughout the process. And it's just really an amazing journey. The film will be released here in a few weeks. We're doing some final tweaks on it. We're going to do a couple of screenings with some pastors, but go ahead and check out the film if you're so inclined as well. Feel free to pre-purchase the movie or the Bible study. So again, that's titheprojectmovie.com. And as always, you can go to richprater.com and check out some of the goofy stuff that I'm doing as well. Well, anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, and we will see you soon.